currently on board a Class 197, this is 197018, travelling back from Llandudno Junction towards Chester. This is the second time I've ridden on a Class 197 and I wanted to give it kind of a second go, if you like, because the first time I rode one it was on the Conway Valley Line. That was the very first service which it operated, and the Conway Valley Line really isn't the best railway to kind of demonstrate these units, I don't think. The track is really rough, it's jointed track, so it's, you know, it's kind of rough, and I know the Civity trains don't tend to ride amazingly well over rough track. So what I wanted to do was experience the trains on a main line. So I've travelled from Chester to Llandudno Junction, and I'm travelling back from Llandudno Junction back towards Chester, and I wanted to experience the trains at speed as well. So I've recorded a few clips of the train on the way up. So the first clips are going to be the train on the way up, sat above the bogey. So I'm where I currently am on the table seats, which are right on top of the bogey. So we're travelling up to a speed of about 80 to 90 miles per hour. What I'm going to do now is record a clip. And what I'm going to do now on the return trip is record some clips of me sat in the centre of the car, away from the bogies, away from those kind of rattling dampers. I think that's the only issue is the rattliness of those dampers. It might settle down as the trains bed in, perhaps. I might try a Class 195 again to see if that is true, but certainly when you sat above the bogies there does seem to be a little bit of a rattling going on. It's not kind of the end of the world rattling, but there does seem to be a little bit of rattling, especially when you're travelling over points or over jointed track. This first clip was recorded directly on top of one of the bogies as the train was departing Chester Station, travelling over sets of points, and it is possible to hear an audible knocking sound.
Croeso ar drên Trafnidiaeth Cymru. Dim ond di.
This next clip is travelling over a plain line section on continuously welded rail, or CWR, travelling at between 70 and 90 miles per hour. Again, there is an audible knocking sound. This third clip is travelling over CWR, again at around 70 to 90 miles per hour, this time sat towards the middle of the carriage, and this time the sound is noticeably less and the ride quality isn't actually too bad, I don't think. This final clip is the return into Chester, travelling over the same set of points, and again sat in the middle of the carriage, and it is noticeably quieter than when you sat above the bogies.
Next station. If you're leaving the train here, please take all personal belongings with you and mind the gap between the train and the platform. We are now approaching Chester. If you are leaving us here, please make sure you have all your luggage and belongings with you. Thank you for travelling with Transport for Way.
So there we have it, that's what the Class 197 sounds like in various scenarios, and yes, there is an audible rattle that comes from the dampers, but it's only apparent when you're sat above the bogies. But to be honest, who sits there and listens to rattles and knocks? Most people will be sat there with the headphones on, or people travelling together will be talking amongst themselves. And I really don't think the knocking sound is that bad. It's worth pointing out also that I have a reasonably good sensitive microphone, so it will pick up every noise. As for the ride quality, it is a little bit harsh when travelling over points, but it's not awful, and when you're travelling over CWR, I found the ride to be perfectly reasonable, even at relatively high speeds. Whilst ride quality is important, I believe other benefits perhaps take priority, like being able to get a seat, and with the new units, TfW will be able to increase capacity on busy routes. Manchester to South Wales services, for example, will be 5 cars once all of the 197s and Loco hauled Mark IV sets have been introduced, and I hope the Manchester to North Wales services will see more 3 and 4 car sets as a minimum. So, whilst many people like myself have made comparisons between the 197s and Class 158s and Class 175s, which are good units, but I don't think a little bit of noise when sat above the bogies negates the positive impacts these new units should have on Wales and Borders services. So there we are, that's my impressions of the Class 197's ride quality. I think I'd like to experience the units on a longer journey before fully making up my mind, but all in all, I don't think these units are as bad as some people have made out. Just before I sign off, I'd like to say a big thank you to my Patreon supporters who help fund things like travel and equipment, so thank you again. And if you'd like to consider supporting the channel, there is a link to my Patreon in the description below. But I'm going to leave it there for today, and say until next time, bye bye.